Hello, I'm Pastor Bev Roble, and I'm excited to continue with you in looking at the path of discipleship we walk together as believers. Today we will talk about the area of financial generosity. We are blessed to live in an area of the country that has many great forest hiking paths. Whenever we enter a forest, we see a gift from God. God certainly didn't have to create a world in which there are more than one kind of tree or where the leaves on the trees turn more than one color. And yet, He has richly blessed us with an abundance of trees and a wide spectrum of beautiful foliage that we get to see every fall. Our Heavenly Father is incredibly generous to us in every way. As people who follow Jesus, we are meant to reflect this generosity in how we give and how we handle the resources that God gives to us. This week, Pastors Kurt and Quincy will speak about the ways in which God has called us to be faithful in our finances. As you walk the forest path and study God's generosity in your journey group, may you be motivated to respond to His grace with gifts that glorify God's name.
I know of a couple. One was a spender, pretty much living paycheck to paycheck, driving fancy cars, taking expensive vacations, and buying nice clothing. The other person was a saver, creatively frugal in everything that he did. This person drove cheap vehicles, without air conditioning, had a small wardrobe of clothes, and didn't take a vacation anywhere. And one's thought was, I work to spend, and the other one was, I work to save. And both were pretty effective at it. And then they met. She silently thought, as she looked at his car, that's the ugliest car I have ever seen. And he thought, why would anybody need electric windows and electric power seats in a car? Their first date was Dutch. Remember, he was frugal, but he could also be sort of stingy. They began to date, and she looked sharp in her designer jeans, and he looked pretty shabby in his worn-out breeches. Opposites do attract, and they were engaged, and gasoline and water were going to join together in marriage. Amazing! Did I mention that their names were Nancy and Kurt? That is, me and my wife. Well, the good news is that we learned to compromise, and one loosened and the other tightened, and the two things were really clear for us. Our first fruits always went to the church, and we did manage to save. A while back, with retirement no longer something that we thought this was for our parents, we sought out a financial planner. We should have gone earlier in our marriage, but what I learned was how grateful I was for the portions that we were able to save through the years and the sacrifices that we made to do that saving. And long before we visited that financial planner, we were grateful for the discipline from the very beginning of our marriage to put the Lord first in our giving. Our message in this session is very simple, and it's found in the words of John Wesley, who said, earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can.
I really appreciate those stories that you shared, Kurt, and I definitely see that in you and Nancy and how you living out your life in terms of earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can. I remember, just to share a brief story, how first time I came to Menor, the pastor of Menor, he was going to take me out for lunch, and he was like, let's go to McDonald's. I thought that was great, honestly. I thought that was a really good thing to see, that you weren't like, hey, let's go to a steakhouse or anything. I enjoyed it.
But we didn't go Dutch.
Yeah, we didn't go Dutch. You did pay for my McDouble. And speaking of John Wesley's advice, I just like to talk a little about earn all you can. It's important when we think about this to remember that we need to be diligent and productive in life. The Bible speaks to this with the words of Proverbs 6:9-11, which says, "How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and scarcity like an armed man. This verse shows kind of some of the humor of the scriptures. Proverbs 26, verse 15, the sluggard buries his hand in the dish, it wears him out to bring it back to his mouth. And the Proverbs talk about how important it is for us to be diligent about the lives that we live, to enjoy our work. We know that God created the first humans to be fruitful and to work in the garden. They're given work to do. We were made to be productive, and when we're not, when we just don't really care about how we receive our next meal, we don't take pride in the work that we do, we suffer. Our character suffers, and the life that we live doesn't feel as fulfilling. I'm grateful that my parents gave me the opportunity to work from the time I was 12, and there are times maybe that work can be a little over, it can become an addiction, but I think overall it's something that it's great to enjoy, to work and to earn the money that we spend and that we use to live on.
Well said. The early Methodists were also taught by Wesley to save all they could. That doesn't necessarily mean opening a savings account, although it could. But most importantly, it meant learning to live a life that was simpler. Reports say that the average American spends about $1,200 a year on fast food. Think about that. A family of 5 would spend $6,000 a year on fast food. Well, listen to this. Studies have also shown that the average American actually throws about $529 of food away a year. Think about that. The simple math is staggering. That means about $1,700 a year a person spends on either junk food or fast food and throwing food away. And that's just food. What about other areas of our lives where we indulge and spend in ways that aren't really necessary? Wesley's counsel was to save all you can. That is, save your resources from being wasted or using poor judgment. You might think, well, I have a right to spend what I want, and I suppose you're correct, until you begin down this path of Christ-centered discipleship, and you begin to realize that God might have other things for you to do with those resources. Jesus put it like this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve 2 masters. Either they will hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. When we develop a lifestyle of serving our others, it's one thing, but when we use that lifestyle just to serve ourselves, we will spend, live paycheck to paycheck, and we will find ourselves limited in our ability to move on into this area of discipleship.
And the third thing that Wesley says is to give all you can, and that really helps us and is the key to centering the place of money in our lives. When you look at the world around us, there are many needs, and we're called as disciples of Jesus to give to those needs. The church has the greatest mission in the world, which is to go and make disciples. And that also means giving so that we have the resources to make those disciples. I'm reminded of Wesley saying that if he died with more than 10 pounds in his pocket, he should be known as a liar. And he lived that way of earning and saving and yet giving as much as he possibly could to the work of God in the world. When we use our gifts and our skills to live into our call to productivity, to living simpler lives, that also enables us to share in the call of discipleship by giving all that we can towards what God's doing in our community, in our country, and in the world around us.
As disciples in the path of discipleship, when we give to support the ministry of our congregation, we are helping the church live into its mission to lead all onto a path of Christ-centered discipleship. When we share in the offering, we help the church go upward in worship, deeper in discipleship, grow together in Christian community, and reach out in the love of God. Together in Christian community and in the way that we live together, we can support the work of the ministry of this church and the larger work of the United Methodist Church around the world, touching lives and sharing the love of God in Jesus Christ as we make disciples in other places, countries, and continents.